Grammar usage is falling by the wayside in the workplace thanks to informal communication such as email, texting, and Twitter. And our career and technology expert Kim McNicholas joins me this morning to talk about these pitfalls and offers the latest on communication etiquette in the workplace. OMG, Kim, what's happening here?
LOL. Well, people have been botching the English language long before social media. In fact, in preparing for this, I was reading an essay by George Orwell from 1946, Politics in the English Language, and he noticed and even addressed the deteriorating English language in that essay, in fact. And I do think we have a graphic because I wanted to show you and prove to you that it's been a problem for a very, very long time.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. He said most people who bother with the matter at all would admit that the English language is in a bad way, but it is generally assumed that we cannot, by conscious action, do anything about it. But he really did feel that we could do something about it. In fact, he said that we should do something about it.
But now, bring it forward from 1946 to now, but if enough people are using this type of language, that means that the language is evolving, doesn't it?
Yes. The people who are wrong now will soon become right very, very quickly.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, for example, with Google, Google wasn't a word. And in fact, with a lot of company names, even with Kimmerview wasn't a word, but I hope it'll be synonymous with practice interview.
Well, you know, it's funny because Google is a noun and a verb.
Yes, it is. And but it wasn't always that. It was just the name of a company, and then it was a noun, and then it became a verb. Yeah. But to really paint the picture for you, back in just regular English language, the word access. So access originated as a noun, and then it wasn't until 1962 that it became a verb. And what's really telling, though, about today's society is that these changes are not really from the top down. They're actually from the bottom.
They are, aren't they?
Up, right?
Yeah.
And that's what really scares me about what I see with the mishaps with grammar and spelling in places like texting and Facebook and Twitter, is that this informal language is going to soon become formal. And honestly, I don't think it should really become formal in the workplace.
Well, let's talk about the workplace, because if someone is going on a job interview, I would guess that you'd want to put all of that slang usage to the wayside and use more of a formal type of language, don't you think?
Right, and exactly, and I think that employers are actually saying the same thing, because there was a survey that was done by AARP or ARP, as well as another organization, and they interviewed nearly 500 employers, and they found that nearly half of those employers are now giving grammar and spelling tests before they hire someone, which is really interesting. And the reason they're doing this is because they're finding that many of the workers within their offices are using text adaptations in formal communications within the workplace. And there is a graphic there. You'll see things. I know many of you use it. I use a lot of these as well. Y-O-U, they're actually using you, and instead of the contraction you are, your, they're using you are, the letters you are. Today, using the to for the to, and today, you know it, U-N-O-I-T. Thank you, just T-Y. And before, they're just using be and for.
Well, a lot of that is brought about by Twitter, of course, because you can only use so many characters. But is there a place where this language is appropriate?
Well, I think that, overall, I just want to say that it really isn't appropriate in any sort of formal situation, except
in the business world.
In the business world, except if you are really on the go, maybe you're running late for a meeting or something. I think that most people would actually excuse it. And so, let's say you're running late, you can use RLT. If there's more to come, you can use MTK, and that's adapted from copywriting and journalism, which we use TK to say to come, so MTK. You can use the letter B instead of BE, which is a very simple abbreviation. But in those situations, I think it's okay, just quickly. But if you're using, doing an email to your colleague, your boss, a vendor, a customer, refrain from using any sort of abbreviations.
I think it's also something like anything that you would do in any type of social media is just think twice before you push the send button.
I think that's a good, especially with autocorrect. Always go back and double check autocorrect. I had someone actually send, instead of sit down, let's do a sit down interview. You can imagine.
I see where it's going.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So really be careful.
What about personal relationships, men and women?
Oh my gosh, that email that you sent me with that study.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a company called Omelet, right? I think that was the company.
Exactly.
A bunch of Stanford students, and they have a super chat app, and they did a study called The Flirting Rules.
Right.
And they found that the #1 turnoff for both men and women was the informal use of language and misspellings and these abbreviations, which completely stuns me. And these are all even millennials that are saying this as well.
You wouldn't expect it
No,
from
not
that
at
age
all.
group at all. So for the most part, what you're saying is eliminate the funky spelling unless absolutely necessary.
Yes, and watch your grammar.
Definitely. Also wordiness, I would think.
Yeah, you want to make sure, just as long as the sentence is structurally and grammatically correct, watch your wordiness, eliminate words, make sure that it is effective communication in the fewest words possible. Use an active voice instead of a passive voice that is just a little bit more effective. And don't be afraid to use short words instead of long words. Because you just want to keep it simple and to the point.
Yeah, okay. So it really comes down to using more appropriate language to meet the situation that you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Excuse me. So, Kim, we are out of time, so TY.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll be right back.